Hello, my name is Richard Burke Jones. I am an artist in Newburyport, and I've just finished an historic painting of St. Paul's Church, St. Anna's Chapel, and many other things, looking beyond to Newburyport, Merrimack River, Rings Island, and beyond. What I'd like to do today, if I could, is to walk you through the painting, 13 or so points of interest, starting at the forefront. However, before I go through the painting, I thought I'd tell you how I work. Generally, I start by choosing a vantage point, choosing a view. And oftentimes I'll put a church in the front looking out towards the water. It depends. And in this particular case, I have chosen a crow's nest view, which I've done for the last several of the paintings. Crow's nest is lower than a bird's eye view. It literally would be from the crow's nest on the mast of a clipper ship. And once I choose the vantage point, I start filling it in. I work out my perspective with some small thumbnail sketches. Then I go to a large pen and ink, generally the pen and ink, which would be on Mylar. I will make the same size as the painting, in this case 36 inches by 54, pretty large. And I'll draw on that for probably 6 months, give or take. And I take it out to the neighborhoods. I draw the existing buildings that are still there. I'll put in the buildings that were there. I'll work out a lot of my research, and I have help for that, thank God. And then I'll transfer the pen and ink, once that is done, to canvas, and I'll paint oil on canvas right on top of it. So that's how I work. Street. Okay, we're going to start in the foreground of the painting. The street in front is High Street, and you'll look, St. Paul's Church. This is the one that was built in 1800 and burned in the early 1920s. And next to that, which is numbered 1 on the sheet, is St. Anna's Chapel. St. Anna's Chapel is to the left of the main church building in the churchyard and is surrounded by graves of the early parishioners. The Reverend William Horton, the rector from 1853 to 1863 of St. Paul's, donated this small granite chapel to be, quote, used as a lecture room and Sunday schoolhouse forever for the benefit of the parish. To be called St. Anna's Chapel. It was named after his only child, Anna Marie Horton, who sadly succumbed to consumption at the age of 25. The structure was built out of Rockport granite in the high Gothic style, unusual for Federalist Newburyport, during the years 1862 to 63. Its architect was the one and only Rufus Sargent. He is the one who built the Institution for Savings building, the handsome brownstone on State Street, which was actually one of the principal subjects for my last painting. Chapel is essentially unchanged since it was consecrated in 1863. The St. Paul's Church itself was a wooden structure built in the Italianate style, with a porch spanning the front. It was consecrated October 8, 1800. The interior of the new church building had closed pew boxes and a balcony that spanned across the back and wrapped around both sides of the sanctuary. The pew boxes were purchased and sold by families, the most expensive being near the pulpit, and passed down through generations. The balcony and a few pews at back were reserved for poor family, widows, itinerants, and African Americans. The building was destroyed by fire in April of 1920. The graveyard surrounding St. Paul's Church follows the historic tradition of the churches of England and Europe. The Puritans of New England, and particularly those of the Massachusetts colony, viewed the established church and its practices as heretical. The Puritans developed community burial grounds separate from their meeting houses. However, contrary to the practices of the Puritans, the Church of England, in pre-revolutionary America, continued the ancient tradition of burying parishioners within the consecrated ground of the church complex. St. Paul's churchyard is a rare surviving example of this tradition. To the left of St. Anna's, you'll notice a rather large commercial wooden structure which had residences above and commercial use below on the corner of Summer Street and High Street, that whole area is now gone with the construction of Route 1. To the right, looking east from St. Paul's Church, you'll see Market Street, which still exists today. There's a number of residents that still remain to this day. As you go down the street on the right, there's the handsome brick residence. Next to that, going down on the right, same side, is a Federalist that was quite an impressive structure that is now gone. Then there are several homes beyond it on the right that still remain there, somewhat changed, but remain. Heading all the way down to the corner of Washington and Market Streets, there's a residence at this corner that remains well preserved today. Also on this corner is the site of the first Catholic Mass celebrated in colonial Newburyport. Heading along Washington Street, a traveler can turn left onto Titcomb, which will bring you to the Central Congregational Church. If you're following along with the numbered pamphlet, number 1 would be St. Anna's Chapel. We talked about 2, St. Paul's Church, the 3, Graveyard, and we're now at number 4, Central Congregational. On March 22nd, 1861, just after midnight, this church, so-called the North Church, was engulfed in flames. Due to a heavy snowstorm the day before, it took considerable time for residents to sound the fire alarms, various church bells, and mill whistles in those days. The parishioners wasted no time, however, in rebuilding this church, and the new church was completed by October of the same year by Albert Currier, who was a member of the congregation. He was a respected builder in town, and he also constructed City Hall on Pleasant Street. The new steeple clock, known as Old Betsy, was the gift of Elizabeth Gerrish, who said that she could read the time from her Rings Island home in Salisbury. Today, the antique clock still keeps time on this beautiful steeple. To the east, or in this painting to the right of the Central Church, is the Garrison Inn, which is still there today, operating with David's Restaurant and the rooms for rent upstairs. The Great Fire of 1811 destroyed downtown Newburyport, and the War of 1812 devastated the Newburyport business community. Moses Brown had plans to construct a row of brick buildings, beginning with the Garrison Inn, along the southwesterly side of Brown Square. Continuing to the east, a traveler comes to the large brick building known as City Hall, number 5, if you're following along. At the Old Town Hall in Market Square, a meeting was held on March 19, 1850, and the citizens voted to build a City Hall, the cost of which was not to exceed $30,000. The vote was close. It was 118 votes for the new location on the corner of Pleasant and Green Streets, and 108 votes against it. The building committee was formed, land purchased, and the cornerstone laid on July 4th, 1850. New structure was designed by local architect and Civil War veteran Colonel Frederick J. Coffin, who also drafted the plan for the Ocean Steam Mills on Warren Street. Albert Currier, as previously mentioned, was the contractor, but he was also Newburyport mayor in 1859 and 1860, and he built City Hall, which was completed in February of 1851, as well as the Immaculate Conception Church and the Public Library Simpson Addition. According to the Newburyport Historic Building Survey, City Hall is, quote, an excellent example of Italianate style, close quote. Again, to the east of Brown Square, one can see the Baptist Church, number 6. It was founded in 1804 when a small group led by Reverend John Peake met in Newburyport's South End neighborhood, so-called Joppa, in a small schoolhouse on Marlborough Street. Its first brick meeting house was destroyed in the Great Fire of 1811, and soon after, a few of the parishioners left to form the Green Street Baptist Church. That structure was designed by local architect Frederick J. Coffin. 1869, the church merged with the Green Street Baptist Church and was renamed the Central Baptist Society of Newburyport. Looking to the east, And closer to the forefront of the painting is a large wooden building at the corner of Court and Washington Streets. It was the, quote, first female high school in the country, close quote. This is number 7 on your sheet. The school merged with the Putnam Free School at the corner of High and Green Streets in the 1860s, and the building itself unfortunately burned in the 1870s. In the river, you'll see a masted, square-rigged sailing ship or ships, which in the 1860s still did populate the local waters. These ships would be built upriver at the Jackman and Currier shipyards and floated down through the center of the bridge. If you look closely, you can see that there was a draw. Closely, you'll see that in the middle of the bridge, there was actually a device whereby the bottom level would be raised up, and it's our belief that that's how they floated through the bridge from the shipyards, Jackman and Currier shipyards, upriver. It's an interesting double-level bridge in the sense that it was a railroad on top, and the horses and carts and wagons would go below it. I assume they didn't go at the same time, lest you had a horse get maybe a little spooked with the train going over it. So that's the end of our tour. I've skipped over some things, such as if you look to the right, upper right, you'll see the Unitarian Church. You'll also see, which is number 8 if you're looking at that sheet. Rings Island is number 9. The whole Route 1 area I've designated as number 13. But in essence, I hope you enjoy it. It is sort of my representation of historically as accurate as I can be view of Newburyport in that time frame. For me, it was a simpler time. It was a time when everybody walked. They stopped, they talked, they rode in a carriage. They played mostly out of doors. They would chat with their neighbor for quite a bit more time than we would ever think about it. They watched her, enjoyed a game of chance, appreciated a level of refinement through their clothing and manners. I can only imagine the periodic sound of the horses' clip-clop, the voices on the street, greetings among friends, which must have contributed to the conviviality and the closeness of the community and the warmth of this small, vibrant town. So in closing, I'd like to tell you how to get in touch with me. The easiest way probably is to just email me at richardburkejones@gmail.com. You can also call the house at 978-462-8382, and we'll make arrangements for whatever you would like and whatever form of payment you would like. Generally, cash or check is fine. I have a number of prints available. I have prints available of the painting we just talked about, St. Paul's Church and Beyond, Newburyport 1860. I have Upper State Street and Beyond, 1870s. I have Pleasant Street to the Ships, 1860, Harbor View of Newburyport, 1850s, Upper Green Street, and others. I make the prints myself on canvas or paper. I use archival inks. I use good quality paper and canvas. And if you would like, I can sign and number them. And if you would also like, I can add a personal inscription to them. If you could, and I thank you very much for your interest in my artwork.